The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
You're now about to witness the truth.
it's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Thursday, March 9th, 2017. Thanks so much for joining us. Always a pleasure to spend this time with you to cover the news. And with that being said, well, before we jump in, of course, I always want to thank our patrons, our supporters, all of you, the newest supporters, the old supporters, all of you. Thanks so much for doing what you do. We have... So far this week, I believe we've had a bonus show every night this week. We're going to try to do one after tonight's show for you, for all the patrons. And so that's just our way of saying thanks for supporting the Benjamin Dixon Show. Later on, I'll be joined by our long-lost Progressive Army member, JP Rankin. He's going to jump in, and we're going to talk some domestic politics. It's been a while. I don't think JP has been on the show in over a year. Feels like longer, but it's probably been over a year. So he's going to join in and talk. He called in the other night and was on fire so much. I was like, dude, you got to come on and just kind of, well, anyway, I can't use that phrase, but kind of just come on and hang out with me. So anyway, we're going to discuss that and all the domestic politics from Paul Ryan's Paul Ryan. It's Paul Ryan. That's all I can say about Paul Ryan. We'll watch a little and listen to a little bit of his presentation today. And I want to talk about, I didn't put this in the headline. I really should have, because I know this would have driven a lot of clicks. I want to talk about 3 things that Donald Trump is absolutely doing right that every leader going forward needs to duplicate and imitate. I'll let you chew on that and sit on that for a second before I even go down that road. But yeah, they're I'm just making some observations, and he's an idiot, but in terms of he's not doing everything wrong. There are a couple things that he's doing right, and I think I think that it should be imitated and duplicated. But first some news. So it appears that the U.S. military is going to be sending troops, actual boots on the ground to Syria. And the dynamics in the region are very interesting is quite an understatement. We'll be pulling up some maps to discuss the location of where the U.S. troops are going to be and the implications, actually what it means. But the U.S. military has been spotted actually in a Syrian town called Manbij. It's really close, conspicuously close to Turkish-controlled territory. So they spotted around 200 Marines as well as howitzers, according to the Washington Post, have been spotted in the city. These forces have placed themselves inside of Kurdish-controlled territory. It appears that they've been placed there in order to prevent fighting between U.S. allies of Turkey and Kurdish militants. And before we go too much further, I actually want to pull up, and I apologize to the radio audience, and I'll do my best to describe it as much as I can. But I want to pull up 2 2 maps, so that you can see the area that they will be in. On your screen, you'll see the yellow territory at the top. That's controlled by Kurdish forces. And there's a blue area just to the northeast, the northernmost portion. That's controlled by Turkish-backed fighters. And then in the yellow region, just on the other side, again, controlled by Kurdish fighters. This is all within, of course, in the midst, of the Syrian civil war. I want to zoom in on that map so you can see the hand-drawn arrow that I drew, so that you can see the town of Manbij, where U.S. forces have already been spotted. It is the first major city on that side of Turkish controlled forces. So Turkey is controlling Turkish-backed forces in the blue region. On the yellow side of this map that's on the screen, Kurdish territory, and U.S. troops are there in this town, on the first major city. Looking at the location of the U.S. troops, it seems as though the troops there may be serving as a tripwire. And by that, consider like the U.S. forces in Berlin during the Cold War, or U.S. forces between North and South Korea. They're sort of as a buffer. The latest dispatch brings the number of U.S. boots on the ground in Syria close to more than 700. U.S.-backed Syrian forces are getting closer to launching an all-out assault on the Islamic State's group de facto capital of Raqqa. And this is the general justification of the troops and the addition of the troops. The conflict in the region has been for a while a tremendous quagmire. Adding the U.S. troops there adds a very unique dynamic, and it seems as though it puts more pressure on the Turkish-backed forces. Turkey has suggested that its own military and its allied Syrian forces should mount the fight, and that the U.S.-backed Syrian Kurds should be excluded. And so it seems there is a desire by Turkish forces to keep that northern region from becoming one contiguous territory controlled by Syrian Kurds because of Turkey's ongoing tensions that they have with Kurdish Turks. Just the idea in general that we've discussed in times past, we've discussed how complicated it is for the Kurds to be some of the most reliable forces in the region to actually fight back against ISIS. The problem is that the Kurdish forces don't represent an existing state, yet they are very highly organized. The Kurdish people are highly organized. They have the ability to defend their borders. They have the ability to provide services to their people. And so in many ways, they function as a state within the region. But the problem is Kurdish ethnic Kurds, their quote unquote territory really intersects with a lot of states, including Turkey. And so for the Kurds to get any contiguous territory in Syria controlled really presents a threat, an ongoing threat to any other region that is dealing. And when I say region, let me be more specific. Any other territory. No, I have to be even more specific. Any other nation that has ethnic Kurds in their borders. Because it's quite literally like a nation growing within your nation. And this becomes a threat to, and not just the general threat. And when I say threat, it depends on which side of the aisle you're on, right? So in many regards, it could be, it's for the United States, it's a positive thing because the Kurds seem to be a reliable ally. They're fierce in the fight. I mean, the Peshmerga, they're fearless in the fight against ISIS. Some of the best fighters, even I think the Republican Party, if you want to take them, for example, they definitely said the only thing that they would do differently would be to arm the Kurds in this fight. And so, but from the opposite side, you know, it's all about your vantage point. This is a threat to Iraq. Right. This is a threat to Turkey because of their ethnic Kurds that reside within their territories. So Turkish Prime Minister said, quote, if the U.S. were to prefer terrorist organizations over Turkey in the fight against ISIS, that would be their own decision. But that wouldn't be something we would consent to. And again, this is a matter of language, right? Because to some people, a terrorist is a freedom fighter. A freedom fighter is a terrorist. That standard dichotomy. But, without getting into that, there is a great amount of tension between the Turks, the Turkish-backed forces in Syria, and the Kurdish, the ethnic Kurds that are in Syria that have controlled their territory. They fought back against ISIS. So in a way, it doesn't appear to be an issue of the Assad regime being concerned about this Kurdish-controlled territory. It's really Turkey who has some territory, or at least they have rebels who are controlling a region of Syria in the north. They're really the ones who see the Kurds as the threat. So when we talk about the U.S. forces being a tripwire, in a sense, they're not really there as a tripwire. If you buy into that theory, they would not be there as a tripwire against Assad to trigger a conflict between the U.S. and Assad, and then by proxy, the U.S. and Assad and Russia. It's really there to put a buffer between the Kurds and Turkey, to say to Turkey, the U.S., who has really been backing Kurdish forces for some time, as much as they could, this is a clear statement to Turkey that the U.S. is behind these forces. And by partnering with the Kurds in the Raqqa assault, the U.S. also risks being seen as entering into an indirect alliance with Russia and Assad's government, which it backs. So this becomes an even more complicated situation, as if Syria was not already complicated enough. But I think this is fascinating. Yes, and you guys have to forgive me. Sometimes international affairs is just fascinating, just on the merits of it. And we could talk about all the other complications that get involved with it. The fact that we actually are putting more boots on the ground. The fact that this could escalate into something. But the irony of this conversation is that they would be indirectly, and the U.S. troops would be in an indirect alliance with Assad on this fight against ISIS. And if they are there to serve as a tripwire, they are not there to serve as a tripwire for Russia/Assad. They're there to serve as a tripwire to one of our allies, Turkey, to lay off the Kurdish-backed forces in the North Syria. So really fascinating stuff happening over there. And by fascinating, it is fascinating. But again, in the midst of this, it is a full-blown civil war where a lot of lives are being lost, and the U.S. troops being there, as you can see, just by virtue of the little bit that we discussed, that greatly complicates the situation even more. All right. A couple of other things I want to talk to before I get on the line with, actually, no, let's do this. Let's take this caller, because I think every other story here, I want to pull in JP Rankin to discuss. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and or question?
Yeah, it's me, Scotty.
What's up, Scotty? What's on your mind, man?
I'm good. I wondered if this is a political show, but today is March 9th, 2017.
Yep.
And I wanted to talk about a gentleman by the name of Christopher Wallace.
Christopher Wallace.
The world knows him as Notorious B.I.G. Now, when he died, I was 11 when it happened, and this was like in the thick of the whole East Coast, the West Coast beef. And I didn't realize it at the time, but like later on, Big's murder, and even like you could say Tupac's murder, like it ironically did a few things. It actually squashed what the so-called East Coast, West Coast beef. Mm-hmm. And, it made people take a step back. I mean, we still have rivalries here and there, Nicki and Remy Ma.
Yeah.
But it also shed light on the Rampart scandal, the LAPD.
Yeah.
Which is, for anyone who doesn't know about the Rampart scandal, just Google it. But also you can watch Training Day, which is partly based on certain events that happened during the Rampart scandal. Mm-hmm. it exposed that. It exposed the fact that also, like Chris Rock said, that the police don't particularly care for rappers. And yeah, it really showed rappers aren't invincible, and
Yeah.
there was a lot of there's a lot of conspiracy about behind. It's ironic till this day. The Wanda Wallace says she thinks it's a conspiracy, but it's still this day that nobody has been held to account for what happened
Yeah.
to Notorious B.I.G or Tupac. That's crazy. And yeah, I wanted to finish. Ready to Die. Yeah, Ready to Die is one of my favorite albums. And listen to the song Suicidal Thoughts, because it really is a descriptive.
It's a good track.
Look into the mind of like a lot of young black men go through in those situations. So I just want to say that. Rest in peace, Christopher Wallace, and long live B.I.G.
Hey, thanks for the call, man. I actually was going to talk about him a little bit later, but where else can you go from talking about the Kurds in Syria to talking about Notorious B.I.G.? One of the thing that besides commemorating his death, and I was seriously caught up in the East Coast West Coast stuff back when he was killed 20 years ago. I was 17 in high school, and I'm on the East Coast, right? Technically, geographically I'm on the East Coast, but not culturally. East Coast really was like a Northeast, like New York. But I was in South Florida, and I consider myself. I mean, I was on the East Coast, but I identify with the West Coast, and I was still pissed about Tupac getting killed. So at the time when Biggie was killed, I didn't appreciate the magnitude of what happened, and it wasn't until I just started, listening to all of his music over again and over again. You start getting the scope and the scale of what happened. But then as I got older, you start realizing how much the media played into this. Like think about how the media does politics now. That's how they were doing. That's how they were doing Pac and Biggie. They were really fueling it as much as they could, because it wasn't clicks at the time, right? Maybe a couple of sites had websites back then. I'm sure they did, but it wasn't about clicks. It was about viewers and how many people tuned in, MTV News, and how many people watched, and who was on, what show, and it was really in the album sales. So it wasn't just the media; it was record labels who were really fueling this because it drove money. It was profitable, and in the midst of their greed, money hungry, capitalistic, soulless pursuits, we lost two of the greatest of all times behind that. And it wasn't until most of us got a little bit older and were able to look back. And when I say, it may have only taken a year, may have only taken a few months for us to look back and see how much the media and record labels were fueling this for sales and for profits and views, and by views, again, not in today's terms, but in those terms, watching television. And it only cost us, sarcasm, obviously, it cost us Biggie and Tupac. So we really have to be mindful of the passions that men try to inflame, because it's a profit center. And not only is it a profit center, but the more sensationalized they can make something, the faster it could escalate into something deadly. I don't consider rap beefs in general to be that, right? Rap beefs are like Twitter beefs. They happen. They happen regularly. They should happen regularly. It's part of the art form. It's part of what we like. We like to see the rap battles. But what happened between this whole East Coast, West Coast rivalry that led to the deaths, ultimately led to the deaths of Tupac and Biggie, was fueled by nothing other than people who learned how to profit off of inflaming the anger and passions of people. And we lost two champions because of that. All right, let's jump in the conversation with with JP Rankin, my homeboy. Matter of fact, I might as well bring him in on the conversation a little bit about Biggie, and then we're going to talk about the GOP. We're going to talk about something that's really kind of shocking for reasons we'll unpack. It's kind of shocking to me that that Donald Trump manages to be more popular, even though they're all unpopular. Donald Trump manages to be more popular than the Democratic Party, than Hillary Clinton, and even the GOP. I mean, as much as people hate Donald Trump, he's still not the most hated in America. I'm having a hard time. Oh, there he is. We got him. JP, what's going on, man? Welcome to the show. Welcome back. It's been a while. Haven't heard from you. I mean, I heard from you this week, but it feels like it's been a while, man. I mean, what you been up to? What's going on? What you been up to, man?
Man, it was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine.
Salt and pepper and heavy D up in the limousine. Yes, sir.
Come on, man.
Man, what's your favorite?
Pictures on my wall every Saturday. Rap Attack, Mr. Magic
Molly Mall.
Come on, man. You talking about the history? I grew up in this, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Look,
what's your favorite?
Man, that means way more to me than any of the Trump dump stuff, man.
I'll be honest with you. It really does. What's your favorite Biggie track? What's your favorite Biggie song?
Hey, we listening to it, Juicy, baby.
Oh yeah, yo, you got to play in over there.
Come on, man, look. No, I'm sitting up here. Yeah, come on, man. So for me, man, it was always about the art. It was always about the form. And the other thing that, I was just listening to what you were saying. The one thing I know for sure is that we got studio gangsters and we got real gangsters. Yep. And what we have to be careful about is that studio gangsters ain't gonna do nothing but keep the beef on wax.
Yeah.
Real gangsters get gangster, and they will go out there and they will do something. And it really just shows you how much power and sway they have, man, and what can happen in somebody's life, because people rep this stuff for real. So
yeah, man. It was speaking of that, Bobby. Not to even remotely put Bobby Shmurda in the category, but it was sad and hilarious when Bobby Shmurda got caught up on those charges, because most people thought Bobby Shmurda was just some, I think it was DJ Academics who said he thought he was some old Nickelodeon clown dude. But Bobby Shmurda was up in Brooklyn, in New York, packing serious firepower. Like, he was taking his rap game so seriously. He brought the hood to the studio for real. And now he's locked up on some serious charges. We're not going to see Bobby Shmurda for a while here. But you're right. Some people keep the beef on wax, and other people take it to the next level. And more importantly than that was the fans, the people, right? So if depending on what narrative you believe, if it was somebody who was just out to get them, it would. Fans got seriously violent about this kind of stuff. So it wasn't just the rappers themselves. But anyway, I digress. You get the last word on this Biggie thing, man.
No, it isn't digressing. It is real. Folks take this stuff seriously, man. When you talk about who your top 5, man, you can end up with a fight afterwards. Because this thing becomes real fast. And so for me, I go back to your classical lyricists. I'm an Eric B. and Rakim type of brother.
Okay.
I like to hear a thought. But look, to be honest with you, I knew Ice Cube was dope. The first time I heard him when he said, F the police, look, I knew for a fact that he was on to something right there. But what it is that, man, the masses try to get us to continue to promote self-hatred. And that's why we end up not realizing that we can profit off of what we're doing. It becomes real, and it's all about our braggadocious stuff becomes so bad that we literally are willing to take each other's lives, man. And that's the part that's crazy. That's scary. And it's crazy, man, because you really begin to think about how brilliant these men were. I'm sitting up when you talk about Tupac. I got so many songs, but the one that really messed with me is Changes.
Really? Okay.
It's Changes mess with me because of the words that it says. Because if you really listen to him, he begins to talk about the fact that he never thought he would see the day that a black man was in the White House.
Yeah.
He said, I see no changes. All I see is racist faces, misplaced hate. Listen, that's
I'm
come on
listening
now.
at
So
you.
we can go there and you can really begin to see that these men are lyrical giants, but they don't even understand the amount of impact they can have. You know, I love Eminem. When Eminem say, look, you can say, yeah, we say a lot of stuff on wax, but trust me, we all waiting to get our checks in the mail.
Yeah.
So you always have to be mindful that some of these folks are saying this stuff, but at the end of the day, they got a check. They trying to raise their family.
Yeah.
They sending their kids to private school.
Yeah.
Look, they handling their business, and what we have
who
to do is begin to do the same, man.
who
So
are your
I'll
top
quit it
five?
right there, man, because this
Let's
could be the hip hop hour for me.
yeah, no. We're gonna finish with our top five or even your top three. Give me let's do your top three. Who are your top three MCs of all time? You thinking hard over there.
Top three MCC, man. This is difficult, man, because this is an era. This is an era issue for me. So, like I said, I like
Yeah,
Eric B.
you got to do it based on the era.
KRS-One.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I got to do them in eras, man. So I'm gonna start back then, because that's when I really, that Eric B. Rakim album, when it first came
Yeah.
out, the first time I saw him live on stage,
Yeah.
Public Enemy didn't show up, and Eric B. just sat there on that microphone.
Wow.
And he rocked the house.
Okay.
Saginaw, Michigan. I'm telling you.
All right, so let's do a top three.
Begin to see it. I love.
Let's do a top three of, let's say, Biggie's era, and then let's do your top three of today.
Okay, well, you gotta throw Biggie, you gotta throw Pac in there, man. And I'm trying to think who else. You know what? I actually like Tretch, man.
Really? Yeah, no. I mean, there's a lot to like there.
I like Tretch.
There's a lot to like there. So those are your top three?
I like Tretch, man, because Tretch could float, man. I loved it. I loved his flow pattern, man, and I just loved the way that he talked about, those types of things. That was good, man. So that was me.
Yeah,
that was me all day. I love Ghetto Bastard, man. That's one of my favorite songs. It's definitely on my phone.
The only one I differ, the only thing I do differently than you in my top three for that era is it's definitely Biggie, it's definitely Pac, and Nasir Jones. Nas. Those are my top three from that era. I know.
Man, I can't listen, man. Come on now. I can't argue with you. I can't argue with Nas, man.
Yeah,
Forget that, man. I think his One Mic album might have been one of the best ones that ever. When he dropped One Mic was one of my favorite songs. And then also when he came out with
you up on this for real though. I like that.
Look,
Preach
that whole album.
You up on this for real. I like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Hip hop is dead.
All right, we gotta shift gears. We gotta shift gears. Let me jump in. We gotta shift gears, but I gotta get your it doesn't have to be today, right? Let's go circa 2006. Let's go back to anything post Biggie. Let's go after Biggie and Pac, that era. Who your top three in that after that?
And we can go now, man. Let's talk about who we listen to now.
Okay, let's go now.
Who some of, for me, like I said, I love lyricists, man. So I love Lupe Fiasco. I love B.O.B.
Yeah.
Him when he came out with F the Money, man.
Yeah.
Look, I love that joint, man. And B.O.B.
I like B.O.B. Yeah.
And hold on, who my other? Oh, J Electronica. I love J Electronica.
I hear you, man. You've got respect right there. My top three right now. My top three are they're not controversial, but they're just my top. These are the three that I would listen to all day long. Old Kanye from College Dropout days. Kanye definitely.
Man, I like Graduation, boy.
Yeah,
Woo!
Graduation. Hey, listen, Graduation stays in heavy rotation. Now that I'm back in the gym, Graduation stays in the gym with me. So I think I'm gonna end up buying Kanye a notebook because they don't get paid much. I'm gonna end up buying him a CD or something from Spotify because he stay on rotation with Graduation. Good morning. Anyway, you got Kanye, I think he's really close to the top. Then believe it or not, there's one little small window there for Lil Wayne that Lil Wayne was killing. The Carter 3. Lil Wayne was the truth on the Carter 3. Carter 3, like
Okay.
back in the Hot Boys day, I couldn't listen to Lil
Okay.
Wayne for 5 seconds. But Carter 3, I've been listening to it ever since it came out. And then that last spot is hard, right? The last spot is hard. Like, I want to put Jay-Z in there, but I want to put Eminem in there. So it's a toss-up between them for number 3 in terms of who I listen to on a regular. But I gotta throw in now,
Man,
my dude.
I listen to both of them, man.
Dude, Chance the Rapper. Chance the Rapper is like, I don't put him up there as a lyricist, but I put him up there as somebody I can listen to all day long. Chance the Rapper is coming with some heat these days. So I don't put him in the category of like any top five
man.
right
Come on,
now.
man. We would be dead. We would be dead wrong if we didn't mention Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar can flow. Matter of fact, that song he made with J-Rock, Pay For It.
Yeah.
Man, look.
Man, we're
I
supposed to be
love that
talking
song.
politics, man.
Come on.
I've liked Kendrick
We are
Lamar.
talking politics.
I've liked Kendrick Lamar for a while now, but it's I don't know. I need, in terms of the hours of listening, Kendrick Lamar doesn't get as much rotation as Chance the Rapper does now. So I don't know what that means. It doesn't mean that Kendrick Lamar is any less, because Kendrick Lamar is the truth. Like, I would say by 2010, I was real heavy on Kendrick Lamar. But it's kind of like I'm really feeling Chance now, Chance the Rapper now. But in terms of who stays in rotation, it would be Eminem, the Carter 3. That's the only window I can give for Lil Wayne. I'm not really a fan of Lil Wayne outside of the Carter 3, and really anything by Kanye, man. I'm like, even The Life of Pablo is starting to sound good to me now. So I can't even say the original Kanye as much as Kanye's whole breadth of work. I actually like, I like Kanye. Anyway, let's shift gears. That we did 15 minutes on, and it's okay. It's okay. It's all good. It's worthwhile. Looks like you froze up for a second there. I give you your computer a second, and there you go. Let's talk about let's talk some politics. Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party are more unpopular than Donald Trump. This blows me the hell away, because Donald Trump really doesn't have anywhere to go but up from here, right? He's finally starting to settle in, and he's doing all of his damage in a more professional way in terms of these executive orders. They're written in better legalese, right? They're taking their time with at least the executive orders. They're rushing and jamming the healthcare bill down our throats. But, Donald Trump really only has to go up from here. But Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party and the GOP are all less popular than Donald Trump. What the hell is going on, Patrick?
Well,
JP, I mean.
Again, I
mean
think that
JP.
what happens is that you have to. That's all right, man. That's okay. So what ends up happening is that you have to take this thing in the consideration of what's happening. Donald Trump hasn't really done or had a lot of time for your average low consumer of political news to make too many mistakes. Sure, they're hearing about the Russian stuff, but it really doesn't bother them yet. They're waiting to see what type of legislation and stuff he's going to pass. If you think about it, he basically is doing what he said. So from a political standpoint, he's being true to what they say, to thy own self be true.
Yeah.
He's being true. And he's actually doing those things that he said he would do. Everybody didn't agree with him. Everybody just didn't want to see the status quo continue. There needed to be some type of shakeup, man, for it to really begin to happen.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why they're saying Trump's floor is somewhere around 40 to 45%.
Yeah, you hit it right on.
And he stays there no matter what, at least for now.
Yep.
But let's not be fooled, because now if this healthcare bill does not pass, if this healthcare bill struggles, then we'll begin to see, because what's happening is that people are beginning to see that Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act ain't the same thing.
So you hit the number spot on, right? So Trump's favorable, his unfavorable right now is 47%, compared to Hillary Clinton's unfavorable, which is 55%. The Republican Party's unfavorables are 48%. Democratic Party's unfavorables are 52%. And even the media, the unfavorables are 50%. So Donald Trump is liked less he's disliked less than everybody involved in the conversation. But it blows me away specifically about Hillary Clinton. Do you think we just haven't put enough time between the election and Hillary Clinton, or
news?
Go ahead.
They're low consumers of news. And when you're a low consumer, it doesn't make you a bad person. It just simply means that you're not watching the day-to-day transactions as some people are. So to me, it doesn't bother me. It's too soon to really be trying to write the man off yet. Trust. When that federal indictment comes,
Yeah.
oh yeah, then that's when everybody
Well,
gonna wake up because they know what indictment means.
Well, here's my hope,
but up
though.
until then, everybody is okay.
Here's my hope. My hope is honestly that the Democratic Party stays here at 52%. And the reason I say that is because they need to learn something. They need to realize they're doing something wrong. You got to be doing something pretty damn bad, pretty wrong for you to be less popular than Donald Trump right now, right? So in terms of favorables, only 36% view the Democratic Party favorably compared to Donald Trump's 45% who view him favorably. And I'm wondering, at what point will the Democratic Party learn that they're not doing something correct, or better yet, they're doing something terribly wrong for you to be less popular than Donald Trump?
I believe one of our elders said this: power concedes nothing without a demand.
Yep.
So I don't know if they realize that the people are demanding difference. And we saw that they were afraid to give it up by running someone against Ellison. Not so much that their platform was different, but it actually has to do with who do you listen to? Who are you getting your information from? And who do you owe? Because at the end of the day, Perez owes the status quo.
Yeah.
And that's why when push comes to shove, he's gonna do the spot on stuff with Keith Ellison. And Ellison, he a good team player, so he gonna do right because he knows that if he fractures the party, the chances of them removing the Republican in 20 becomes a problem.
Right.
So he's playing good ball, if you want to call it that. He's playing good ball. He's gonna be a good teammate. But as a party, they should have never put Perez up, because had they not put Perez up, guess who would have been the chairman right now, the DNC? It would be Keith Ellison. The problem with that is they don't control Keith Ellison. Keith Ellison don't owe them enough.
Right.
So at the end of the day, they want to make sure that they got somebody who owed them, who can help weigh some of these things out, because these folks are afraid that the left is literally coming in, and they're coming in hot, and they're coming in mad. And not only them, but the entire country. This is one of the reasons why they're trying to pass this healthcare bill so fast. The reason that they got to pass, because if these guys go home again and they run into these town halls that they ran into before, it's going to be hell to pay. It's going to be hell to pay anyway. That's why we need to be looking at who we running in 17, who we running in 18. And again, as I shared the other day when I called, we have to get rid of this purity test, y'all, and we have to begin to love people for that moment. I may not agree with you on abortion, but I agree with you on income inequality. When we're talking about things of income inequality, can we be cool? Can we work together? And then because of religious considerations, I may look at abortion differently than you. Will you not disparage me to the point that we can't work together? Because if that's what we continue to do, that's what's happening. Look at what's happening right now. Ben, these folks hate Trump. Yeah. Trump is not a conservative. Trump is a moderate. They hate Trump. They know Trump don't have no conservative bona fides in him. But yet they're guess what they're doing? They playing good team ball. They're going to saying, you know what? We're going to get what we can out of him before they indict him.
I believe that last part very much so. I believe that they are going to do everything they can. They don't care what Trump does as long as he signs the legislation that they put on his desk. All right, let's talk about another story here. This is completely asinine to me. Scott Pruitt, the head of the EPA. We're sitting here before the show and we're trying to think of all the people, all the demographics, all the identities that are going to be hurt by Trump. And then I stumbled onto this story from earlier today. The Scott Pruitt, he doesn't believe that carbon dioxide is a major contributor to global warming. And this is the guy who's over the Environmental Protection Agency. He said, quote, "I think that measuring with precision human activity on the climate is something very challenging to do, and there's tremendous disagreement about the degree of impact. So no, I would not agree that it's a primary contributor to the global warming that we see." I mean, I have to put in the midst of all of the people that are going to be hurt by Donald Trump, I think the environment is the top of the list of I mean, we're getting ready to go beyond the pale with the guy who's charged with protecting the environment now being a climate denier, just completely dismissing the scientific community in the middle of, I think I saw 11,000 record temperatures were set in February of heat, of high temperatures being set in 1 month. Last month, 11,000. And in the midst of that, those are all individual data points, right? So, we'll have to let somebody run the analysis to see what it actually means. But in the midst of this record heat, we have a guy who says that, he doesn't feel like carbon dioxide contributes to global warming. What's your take?
Let's send him to China, Beijing. Let's leave him there with no mask on for about a month and a half. And tell them to come back and let me know how that asthma feels. That's it. At the end of the day, this is not about him denying climate. If they were to accept climate, then they would lose money. A lot of this stuff ends up being an economic issue. So if we quit using fossil fuels because we know that they're harming the environment, then there are a lot of people who are going to lose a lot of money.
Yep.
They want to use all the fossil fuels up first. And then once they get done with that, then they'll switch over to alternative energy sources, and they'll be in a great position to make money doing so because they'll have made all the money off the fossil fuels. Yep. So this is a financial situation. They figured, look, I'm going to be dead. And you know what? I'm just going to put that on my great-grandkids. They got to live with it. I won't be here to see the true effect of what global warming is going to do. And since I don't know my great-great-grandchildren, I'm good with that.
Right.
So
You don't have any emotional
so that they can buy oxygen masks while these other people suffer through what's happening. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist. My mom had a 12th grade education, but she was heavy. She had a PhD in common sense. You can see the seasons not changing right anymore. I'm from Michigan. And being in Michigan, it snow and it get cold. I'm sorry, when it has more snow in Boston than it has in Michigan over the course of the last couple years, there is a problem.
Yeah.
I don't know how people don't see that.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, you guys have more snow than we have been.
Dude,
and we
barely
pride
have any.
ourselves on the number of ski resorts that we have.
Listen, it's clearly a change. Like, I've been here for 4 years, and normally before we got here, they said it would start snowing. You can see snow in November. You definitely see snow in December. You don't see that anymore, right? And of course we're using anecdotes, but anecdotes are individual observations that eventually add up to either a trend or not a trend, right? So we're okay with using anecdotes. It doesn't snow here regularly like it used to, right? But then also it's like spring is around the corner now, like not in terms of what we expect, but like literally we had 60 degrees today. Last month February, we had 70-degree days. But besides that, here's what I want to point out about Pruitt. Pruitt knows that he has nothing to lose politically by taking this position, because all of the people who support Trump, all the people who support Republicans and the GOP, they believe this same idiocy. There's a poll, I believe this is the New York Times, and the question is whether or not climate change is occurring. 18% of Republicans believe that it's occurring. 18%. 18% of Republicans believe it's occurring compared to 68% of Democrats. Now, I would expect more Democrats to actually believe in the science, but I mean, 68 is far better than 18%. In terms of the causes of climate change, only 11% of in terms of should we have a role in politics. Actually, I'm reading that one wrong. Let me skip to this next one. Here's the next question. Almost all climate scientists agree that human behavior is mostly responsible for climate change. From that question, only 13% of Republicans believe that we have a contributing factor to climate change. And surprisingly, only 55% of Democrats believe it. But again, there's a great distance between 13% and 55%. I mean, Scott Pruitt has nothing to lose. I mean, he's not an elected official, so of course he doesn't have anything to lose. But in terms of being baggage for Donald Trump, he's not going to weigh Donald Trump down electorally because their base they don't believe in science either.
Well, it's a job creator, Ben. At the end of the day, you have to realize that people in this country are hurting, and where you have said that the environment will be hurt just as much as poor people, the middle class, and other folks during this Trump presidency. Many of these folks don't care; they just need a job. And so let's open up that old coal mine so people can go back in here and get black lung disease. So that they can have a livable wage and live okay. I mean, I think it's an oxymoron, but for some people, the work means more than the actual science, because at the end of the day, all they want to do is work.
Make
what
that money.
They say is all these Democrats ain't nothing but a bunch of tree huggers. Because what happens sometimes is that you know that the extreme left can be extreme.
Yeah, I know.
We can be extreme. We don't know how to work together anymore. So while I pray that I don't hurt the feelings of somebody who really truly believes that, you know, every tree needs to be saved, I think some of them jokers need to be cut down because they dead. I believe that so you have to realize that, you know, some things just have to go for the way of progress or some things like that. But we don't have that middle ground anymore. We play to the extremes, man. I'm almost reminded of a Billy Joel song. I don't know why I go to extremes, too high or too low. It ain't no in between. I just don't get it. I just understand that we as progressives have to realize that we can no longer just be so far off that we can't come in and do the work anymore of governing. Politics is the art of compromise. I mean, if you can come up with any other definition that you want to, but in reality, it is the art of compromise. And I'm going to tell you something. Donald Trump knows that. So he's trying to figure out right now, how can he compromise enough to get the 50 votes he needs in the Senate? Because he already believes he's going to get the House, so that they can repeal and replace Obamacare. Forget the 10 million people who won't be able to have access to affordable health care. Forget all of what the doctors and everybody else is saying. Forget what the Congressional Budget Office, who hasn't even put a number on it.
Hang on one second for me.
This is how you know he ain't a conservative.
Well, before you go to Obamacare, because we're going to talk about the repeal and replace next, but I want to double back and I want to read this data right before we finish this conversation. The question was, do climate scientists understand? They're asking the electorate. Climate scientists understand very well whether climate change is occurring. 18% of the people, they're not making a statement about their personal belief. They're making a statement about whether they think scientists know what the hell is going on. 18% of Republicans believe that scientists understand climate change and understand the causes of climate change. Only 11% believe that scientists understand the causes of climate change. So not only is it a statement against the environment, but it's really a statement against science. It's a statement against it's the fake news, alternative facts phenomenon is evident here. I'm not going to say it's seeping into it because that probably started here. The rejection of science and the rejection of information and data started probably right here because all of the data says we're screwing up the environment, and so they have to reject science. They have to reject data. All right, so let's shift gears. Let's keep it trucking here.
Ben, hold on. Before you shift, one last comment.
Okay.
Science don't put food on the table.
Well,
when you got people who are after their basic needs getting met, we will go against our own self-interest. Remember, self-preservation is the first law of nature, and people want to eat. And if that means I gotta pollute the climate and kill my great-great-grandchildren, be it as it may, because I need to eat today without doing something illegal or immoral. And that's why I know that it makes no sense, but from a psychological standpoint, hurting people do what they think they need to do. And that's why they won't believe the science, because the science changes up their whole way of thinking and living. We can move.
All right. All right. Good stuff there, man. All right. All right. Let's shift gears. Let's talk about Obamacare. Here is your Speaker of the House talking about Obamacare, talking about why it was so bad. And just listen to how he puts this.
The fatal conceit of Obamacare is that we're just going to make everybody buy our health insurance at the federal government level. Young and healthy people are going to go into the market and pay for the older, sicker people. So the young, healthy person is going to be made to buy health care, and they're going to pay for the person, who gets breast cancer in her 40s or who gets heart disease in his 50s. So take a look at this chart. The red slice here are what I would call people with pre-existing conditions, people who have real health care problems. The blue is the rest of the people in the individual market. That's the market where people don't get health insurance at their jobs, where they buy it themselves. The whole idea of Obamacare is the people on the blue side pay for the people on the red side. The people who are healthy pay for the people who are sick. It's not working, and that's why it's in a death spiral. Here's how we propose
he clearly has no idea how the hell insurance works in the first place. Like, I'm not even going to use driving because I drive so much. I was just going to say, I'm not going to use that. Go ahead.
Ben, I was just about to say, ain't that what actuaries do all the time?
Exactly.
They manage risk pools. That's what a risk pool is. You make sure that you got enough healthy people. You got, let's just use car insurance.
Yep.
I make sure I got enough people who drive a car and never get in an accident to take care of the people who can't drive and always get in an accident.
Exactly. That's the entire point of insurance, right?
It
doesn't work. It does not work without people. There would be no such thing as insurance if everybody who was participating in insurance needed insurance. Right. That's just, and I don't know if it's, again, we always have this argument here. Is it malicious or is it incompetence? I don't care which one it is. Ultimately, it's his means through which he wants to do more harm to Americans. And it becomes so evident in his language because his example that he thought would be a good example to point out why someone 25 and young should not have to pay for someone who has a pre-existing condition is a 40-year-old woman with cancer. Now, I mean, of all the examples, right, he pulls out the one that is most realistic, very true. And I mean, every single one of us has somebody who's been touched by cancer. Paul Ryan is a soulless coward, and he demonstrates it as though it is he's just putting out facts as a wonk, as a policy wonk, but he's simultaneously showing how imbecilic he is and how much full of contempt that he has for sick people. I mean, who does this kind of thing besides Republicans and some Democrats? Go ahead.
This is true. This is true. So first and foremost, let's start from this space right here. The other day, he said that what they were doing was an act of mercy. So let us pray about this mercy that we want to have. Lord, we want to help the poor people by taking insurance from them because they need to go work for it. And Lord, just because you sick, don't mean that everybody else should care for you, because forget that your text tells us that we supposed to take care of the widow, the orphan, and the stranger, alien, the immigrant. Forget all that stuff. But let's go on and just say, Lord, let's just go ahead and make sure the rich get richer and the poor get poor. And forget the fact that you said the poor we will have with us always. Yep. And matter of fact, you said that if the way that we take care of our poor speaks of how we truly care and love you. Forget all that stuff, and let's just simply say that we're going to have mercy on them by just using the word M-E-R-C-Y. Right. In Jesus' name, amen.
See, wait, right there, because
this is mercy that
he thinks, but here's a funny thing, right? You bring up all the religious aspects of the Republican Party, right? Which is fascinating to me. But right here on this very issue, I mean, besides the fact that he does not care, besides the fact that their religion is really just there for political purposes, besides the fact that they have no concern or no regard whatsoever to any type of economic justice in the Bible, any type of social justice in the Bible, they just completely do. Besides that, we know that, but even on their own merit, merits. He doesn't even clearly doesn't understand the concept of insurance being in the Bible, right? And I was messing around with the audience earlier today, but the strong must bear the infirmities of the weak. I mean, that is the framework for insurance in the first place. The people who don't get sick provide for the people who are sick. The people who don't have their houses burned down provide for the people with fire insurance. So even from their religious perspective of saying they love God and they want to insert God in every other aspect of American government, they absolutely ignore 100% any type of mandate in their own Bible towards economic justice, towards social justice, and now even towards insurance. You got it.
Matter of fact, that's actually being where social justice came from. Remember that the farmer was told to leave the corners of the field and never to glean it. Because that was a way for a place for the poor, the widow, the orphan, and the stranger to go and make sure that they ate. That's why you never gleaned the corners. You left them there for them. You didn't give them your scraps. You gave them something that was good. I'm sorry. Did I just say that?
Yeah.
I did just say that. So you don't give up your scraps. You give people something that's good. And the reason that I brought this up is that because of where we are right now with our vagina grabber in chief, is that the idea is that we've forgotten the fact that we are supposed to be a people who cares about those who can't take care of themselves. Matter of fact, as we begin to do this stuff, as we begin to move forward, I'm reminded of this idea that, yes, I know we're a capitalist society, and yes, I know we're a republic, but also we're a democracy. In a democracy, you always have to have a safety net for those who can't take care of themselves at this moment. That's what makes a democracy. Yes, I help somebody. That's why we pay taxes. I pay taxes so that the federal government, the state government, local government can run, but also that they can take care of the societal needs of the community in which we all live. Yeah. And now they're trying to cut the safety net out. It would be bad enough that they were just trying to roll back Obamacare, but some of this stuff will tap into Medicaid. Think about this, Ben. They're trying to cap Medicaid at where it is, even though the projections say that we will need an additional $70 million or billion dollars. I'm saying $70 billion for us to continue to go forward. There are some problems right now in really you saying that God is telling you to do some of this stuff, because God ain't speaking to some of these people. They're making this stuff up.
They're making this up themselves.
I don't want to hear any more about this religiosity, because it don't pass the test.
Not at all.
How do you know if something passed the religious test? You turn to the text and you see what the text says, and if the text and that lines up, be it as it may. But when it can't line up, then there's a problem. And I think sometimes the silent posts, even if we go back to the lettering of the Birmingham jail with Dr. King said it wasn't the racists that he had the biggest problem with. It was the people who just sat silent and just said, oh, well.
Yep.
This is why we have to begin to speak up, and we have to speak out, and we have to continue to do so. We also have to be mindful that we still have to govern during this time. We got to do this, people. We can't just give up and give in.
We
can't.
Man,
we
back in the
thing going. We got to continue to fight. We got to keep it moving.
Back in another lifetime, man, I would ask where my Hammond organ was so I can back you up. It sound like you hooping over there, like you preach. All right.
I was ready to go for that. I was ready to go for that landing.
Yes, sir.
That plane somewhere.
hey, preachers make the best politicians sometimes. Anyway, I digress. Here, last thing I want to talk about, and this may shock the audience. There are three things that I think Donald Trump is doing right, and there are three things that I think that that every leader going forward should absolutely take their cue from Donald Trump. Number one, he's keeping his base mobilized. He's planning a rally next week. I believe it's in Tennessee. And he's keeping them. I mean, he's gathering them. We're not even 2 months out from the inauguration. He's had 2 rallies already. And it says something when you realize the power of your base. Your base mobilizes you. You mobilize your base. You energize each other, and you can keep going. Now, obviously, he's mobilizing his base to hurt the average American. But if he can do the smart thing for the wrong reason, Why the hell can't Democrats or any other politician why did not Barack Obama keep his base mobilized and galvanized? Going forward, leaders better take note, because this is how Donald Trump is managing to be more popular. Even though he's unpopular, he's more popular than the Republican Party, than Hillary Clinton, than the DNC. And he's doing so because he's keeping his base mobilized. That's number one. What do you think about that?
I believe you're spot on. I believe that at the end of the day, a lot of the things that he does, he continues to throw that red meat out to his public. He's staying consistent with them. But the other part about it is that it's easy when you're doing what you said you was gonna do.
Yeah.
He said he was gonna build a wall and Mexico gonna pay for it. But look, since he can't get Mexico to pay for it now, he gonna figure out another way where he can lie and say Mexico gonna pay for it because we ain't gonna give Mexico no money. So he's kept his promise. He said he was gonna repeal Obamacare and replace it. Guess what he's doing, y'all? He's keeping his promise. He said he was gonna make America safe again. Guess what he's doing, y'all? He's keeping his promise. So the number one rule of politics is, if you say it, mean it, and if you don't mean it,
don't
say
say
something else. And he's keeping his promises. Listen, it's easy being when you're saying exactly what you mean. You mean what you say what you mean. Because most politicians don't have the wherewithal. They float like the wind. They use too many focus groups and too many stats, instead of going with their gut saying, so if I was a Republican and I went home and all these people told me not to get rid of Obamacare, at the end of the day, I'm remembering self-preservation is the first law of politics. I need to get elected again. So I'm going to say, y'all can't do this right now, because I'm going to lose if I got to come back home. These are people. I know these folks.
Right.
These ain't no Democratic plants.
Right.
These are people who have
Real
worked on my campaign.
Right.
Told me don't get rid of it. And so I'm going to have to work with that. So I think that's the first thing, Ben. You're right.
All right.
As a politician, the first thing he's doing is that he's honoring his word.
And he's keeping
that's something that Democrats need to learn.
He's keeping and as horrible as his policies are, as much as it's going to hurt the average American, that's what they want, and he's doing it, and he's keeping his base mobilized. He's keeping them rallies. So that's and going forward, any politician who does not understand that, you're a complete fool, because it's working. It's working for the wrong agenda. Why the hell can't we put it in action for the right agenda? Number two, that he's doing right, and I think every other politician needs to focus on and take note of. He is not wasting time with bipartisanship. He's not wasting time trying to convince Democrats that he has the right agenda. He's steamrolling the Democratic Party, and he doesn't care. And I'm reminded back when 2008, when President Obama spent so much time trying to bring the Republicans along. He spent so much time trying to convince them that we're going to have a new era in American politics. There's no such thing as a new era in American politics, except for the fact that we are hyper-partisan. We have a hyper-partisanship environment. And so in that environment, stop wasting time trying to convince people who would rather die than to find some type of coalition with you. Stop trying to win them over. Work for the people that got you there. I think he's doing the right thing there politically. Again, it's stuff that's going to hurt us, but it's absolutely something that leaders need to learn and stop wasting time triangulating, ultimately coming up with something that your base didn't want in the first place. Give me about 30 seconds on that.
30 seconds, Ben. The first thing he began to do, he began to bring in CEOs, and he told them, you will not move these jobs out of this country. If you do, you will pay.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I told you, this is about eating right now.
Yep.
So these folks want to eat, and they hungry. White people are beginning to hurt like black people are hurting. These folks used to have well-paying middle-class jobs. They were the ones who were able to stay when black people got let go. And now they're at a point right now where they starving too.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, if you keep that in front of them, you'll be fine. It has nothing to do with partisanship. That's why when Elijah Cummings went there and started talking about reducing the cost of prescription drugs through Medicare, it hit Trump right on. Trump said, yeah, let's cut the cost.
Yep.
At the end of the day, he don't care whether you're Democrat or Republican. He didn't go looking for Elijah Cummings. Elijah Cummings threw him a bone.
Yep.
And he bit.
Yep. All right, last but not least, the thing that I think Donald Trump is doing right, and we're going to end the show here after I let you get the last word and tell everyone how to get up with you. Donald Trump, every morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, he's clearly somewhere in the bathroom tweeting, communicating directly to his base. He 100% circumvents the media as much as he possibly can. And so by the time the media catches up with his morning tweets, the average American has already gotten it. They're getting it through social media. They're getting it through Facebook. And then in the middle of the day, you have the press conference and something happens in the press conference. And then the media has to play catch up again. He's got the media on their tails, right? He's got them playing catch up with him. And I don't think it's so much an intentional strategy, because I think he's just doing what he normally does, which is he gets up, he sits on the john, and he tweets, and it's working for him. And it's time for politicians to stop poll testing everything. Now, granted, again, the context is this: the stuff that he's saying is ridiculous. The stuff that he's saying is detrimental. The policies he's going for is going to hurt America. But it's working for him because he's circumventing the press. He's keeping his base mobilized, and he's not worried about bipartisanship. And if he can do all those things for the wrong agenda, surely we got to find some political leaders who can do those types of things for the right agenda. JP, get the last word and then tell everyone how they can get up with you.
Hey, I will just simply say this. I believe you're absolutely right on one point of it. I think that the idea of him controlling the narrative, because at the end of the day, that's all the press is. They utilize the press to control the narrative. Trump has decided to use Twitter to be the narrative controller.
Yep.
That's fine and that's well and that's good until you do something ignorant, because one of the things that you have to be careful about is, think about it. I like to use an analogy. So here's my analogy. Think about if you're a drug dealer and the police is trying to catch you, right?
Yeah.
The police doesn't have to be right, but one time you got to be correct all the time.
Right.
That's the problem that Trump is going to run into messing around with the press. He got to be right all the time, because the one time that he's wrong could be the one thing. He never thought in a million years that the thing that was going to get him in the most trouble that he's in right now is accusing the previous president of wiretapping.
Yeah.
Not just saying that his administration did it, but that he did it, which makes it illegal, which makes it a felony, which basically, so guess what? By that same thing, you have to
live
be
by
careful,
the sword, die by the
same thing
sword.
you use well is the same thing that can bring you down. And that's why Trump has to be careful. So that's where I think he's going to get bit in the butt at, is messing around, and because all of a sudden people are still digging.
All right.
They digging. You don't need people digging. You need people believing. How can you get up with me? Well, if you in Las Vegas right now, you can come get me from the stratosphere. I'm here for one more day doing some training. But in real life, you can hit me up at JP Rankin on Twitter. And hey, look, it's just good to be back and with my family. I love y'all. I missed y'all. I just needed to go decompress because this politics had me depressed. But I'm here to let you know that I am still impressed by what the Progressive Army is doing to the rest. And I'm here to let you know that it's going to be all right, because progressives still are the best. And forget what everybody else is saying. Let's not lay down and go to rest. Let's get up and handle our business.
Drop the mic.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. It's Ben Dixon! If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.